before we resume on our late Mishlei Bekius thing, so do you know, this came up in one of my other shiurim, do you guys know what a pthichtah is for the megillos? A pthichtah, yeah. So I think it's all 5 megillos, and it's in Midrash Rabbah. Okay, so Midrash Rabbah is midrashim on Chumash and on the megillos, but this is only on the megillos. So the way that if you go to on all Torah at least, there's Perek Aleph of Megillah, but then there's also the Hakdamos. Okay, and the Hakdamos have these things called pthichtah, which is whenever the Tanaim were going to give a series of drashos on a Megillah, they would give a pthichtah, which is an introductory drasha. Okay, an introductory drasha would be quoting a pasuk not from the Megillah that they're darshaning, and it would be a regular midrash, but the purpose of the midrash would be to give like an overview of the entire, like a thematic overview of the entire Megillah. So let's say, for example, here, Rav Pasach, V'hayu chayacha teluim l'cha mineged. Okay, actually, there's a weird example. Okay, it's a complicated example. Let me see if there's a simpler one. Oh yeah, here we go. Shmuel Pasach. So Shmuel would start off his drasha on Megillah with Va'af gamzos biyosem be'eretz oivehem lo ma'astim lo ga'altim lachalosam lahafir brisi itam ki ani Hashem Elokechem. Okay, so he says in Vayikra 26:44, and even this, when they are in the land of their enemies, I will not, this is Hashem talking, I will not despise them, and I will not reject them to destroy them, to nullify my covenant with them, for I am Hashem their God. Okay, and you can already see how that might be relevant to the Purim story. Okay, but then it darshans, Lo ma'astim b'Bavel. I did not reject them, or I did not despise them in Bavel. Lo ga'altim b'Madai. L'chalosam b'Yavan. Right, so he darshans it, and the goal of the pthichtah is when you learn it, you get an idea that spans the entire Megillah. Okay, so it's a cool thing, and like if you're ever learning any of the megillos, then it's a good thing to do if you want to get like a bird's eye view of the entire Megillah through drasha. So I remembered that there are certain psichtos, and some of these are also in the Gemara in Maseches Megillah. Certain psichtos I think come from Mishlei, and I was thinking while we're doing lates, why not connect it to Megillas Esther? Okay, so the question I'll pose this question to you. You would not believe which character in Megillah is identified as a Leitzim. Who would you guess? Okay, why?
No, not him.
I was thinking somebody outside the box.
Oh, that's a good guess. That's a good guess. Yeah, because they were speaking lashon hara against the king, or they were whatever, like starting up trouble with their speech against the king. Yeah. Oh, that's another good guess.
Aster?
No.
That's
another one I would guess. Yeah. So the answer is nobody. Okay. The answer is nobody. But the reason why I'm telling you is because if you do look through, I believe the reason why I thought it was somebody is because, maybe it's not here, maybe it's in Maseches Megillah, is Achashverosh is in one pasuk described as a pesi, okay, which is a different kind of fool. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because apparently it was worthwhile because not a lot of people knew about the psichtos, and it's a good way to link, like if you're ever like looking for a way into one of the megillos, then it's a handy technique, and there are a lot of psichtos that come from Mishlei or from Koheles or things like that, and so it's a good technique. So I thought I would just share that methodology thing, just in case. And also the other thing is, if you ask yourself that question, it does get the gears turning. Like, let's say the answers that you gave about like Big Son of Zeresh or like Zeresh or whatever, like if they're people partake of certain qualities of Leitzim. Like let's say for example Haman, right? So Haman, definitely engaged in an unhealthy amount of denial of reality, right? But apparently that's not the denial of reality that the Leitzim is involved in. Or let's say like Achashverosh seemingly did not have a lot of good self-control, right, in a lot of areas. But that's not apparently the same quality as a Leitzim, So like it's so what these questions do for it does help you to, even if you get it wrong, you misdiagnose a Mishlei fool, it does force you to like refine your understanding, and it's still a useful exercise. Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because like, have you ever heard the disc profile?
The what?
The disc profile.
No, I don't know what that is.
Right. So as average, you can search it up. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But like, it's basically like most people have like, like certain like traits, like you're very direct, or whatever, and there are like 3 others. So I'm wondering over here also, like, depending on the situation, you can be more of a Lace or a Russia or like, but because it's hard to imagine that like Haman and Akashir and all those people, like they didn't have clause of
right. I mean,
so like I'm wondering
right.
what does that mean? Like
yeah, I mean, we definitely all have qualities of all the Mishlei fools, right? But the question is, at what point does it become defined as such? And not, it's not. You could even say that premise is wrong. It's not like there's a pure Leitz or whatever. But like, at what point would you, for all intents and purposes, treat the person like a Leitz? I'm smiling because I just read another good quote this morning, which applies to Mishlei. In theory, so here's the quote: in theory and practice are the same, but in practice, theory and practice are not the same. Okay, and in theory and practice are exactly the same, but in practice, theory and practice are not the same. Which is a good. I mean, it's a good thing in general, but with Mishlei, it really operates because like Mishlei speaks practically about theoretical constructs, right? The Leitz always does this, the Pesi always does that, but in actual practice, there's no such things as theoretical constructs walking around, like they partake of different qualities or they exhibit different qualities. And so you have to like have a more nuanced eye. Yeah, it's a good quote, right? Okay. All right. So we're not going to review all the things we did yesterday. Oh, if you want to get a Tanakh, like you'd be the Tanakh guy, then you for yourself. Okay, so let's just quickly go through the qualities we got from the Leitz yesterday. So we got the fact that he hangs out in chills, right? Yeah. What do you call the collective nouns? Like a gaggle of geese, a parliament of owls, a pack of wolves, a chill of scorners. What was that? A chill of chillers. Yeah. Well, we want to highlight the scorner group. Yeah. So chill of scorners. Okay, then we said that they do that because they need the audience and they need the reinforcement, and they also need, I think I said this yesterday or someone said this, but I think it needs to be strengthened. Part of what they thrive on is the us versus them mentality, but it's not a genuine us versus them, because like you were saying, it's each of them is individually engaging in scorning and speaking Lashon Hara, but they're just doing it in a group. It's not like there's a genuine identification with the other person, because that person could easily become a victim. And the thing that's motivating it is not a desire to connect with the person. It's really a desire to disconnect with the parts of themselves that they don't want to face, So, but I think the dynamic does play itself out as there's going to be an in-group and an out-group, and they're going to be constantly like bad-mouthing the out-group, Okay, then we had the fact that they hold scorning dear, okay, which means that it's not like, I want to refine this also. When we speak Lashon Hara, and I'm being done the so that none of us are Leitzim, okay, I'm hoping, right? When we speak Lashon Hara, usually I think it's instigated by like lapses or individual weaknesses, like someone makes you defensive and so you badmouth them, or you're in an angry mood, or you're insecure and like you lash out at them or something like that, or something like that. Like it's prompted by circumstance, whether external or internal. But with the Leitz, it's a default setting. It's something they need to do in order to maintain their entire like psychological edifice. So that's why I think that holding scorning dear or coveting it, like it's a positive default perpetual draw to Leitzanus, as opposed to Laton, as opposed to like a momentary thing that's awakened, Okay, if one is drawn to scoffers, he will scoff, but if one is drawn to the humble, he will find favor. There we said that that it spreads, the behavior spreads, that if you're hanging around Leitzim, then you will pick up on their behaviors. Why did we say yesterday that you pick up on their behaviors? Because I was thinking about one more example, but I forgot what we said. Or you don't even have to say why we said yesterday.
Not a Leitzim, you are around Leitzim.
Yeah. Why are you going to start engaging in Leitz's behavior?
It's kind of fun.
Right,
Well,
so
they're going to be like, you're going to be the subject.
Okay, correct. So one thing I think we said yesterday is like there is a defensive thing that if you don't partake, then they're going to start like victimizing you, because you're not upholding that reality that they're trying to uphold in their own minds. It also is fun, right? Like, especially if you hold by Freud, right? That two fundamental drives are the aggressive and the sexual. And the interesting thing, by the way, this is a side point, but our Mishlei Leitzim is definitely aggressive, right? The way that the word Leitzanus is used in the Gemara Leitzanus is sexually perverse talk. Okay, it's like what we call nivel peh. The Gemara in Megillah actually calls Leitzanus. Okay, that's the Gemara that says kol Leitzanusa asura bar min Leitzanusa de avodas kochavim, that all Leitzanus is asur except for the Leitzanus of avodah zarah, and that's where the Gemara says that you can tell. Again, don't do this. Like you gotta like be intelligent about this. But Gemara says you can tell an Ovid of avodah zarah to take his avodah zarah and shove it up his shintav. Nice. Yeah, and Rashi explains what shintav is, I think. Yeah, but like you can so that's like that's what do you call it? That's Gemara's Leitzanusa. But the point is that it's fun not just because it gives you positive pleasure, but because it like reaches this primal animalistic drive to kill or look, there's also Leitzanusa that is in the sexual, where you are talking about people in ways that make them seem depraved or like highlight the shameful aspects of them, so it's fun. The thing I was thinking, which I don't think we mentioned yesterday, is now I forgot it. All right, maybe I'll remember it, but that was a good review. Okay. I said we're not going to review, but it looks like we're reviewing. Okay. These next couple ones were all related, these two were related. He hates tochacha because tochacha reminds him that he's not living in the correct way, and that the faculty that he could be using to live in the correct way, the self-restraint, is something that he is suppressing. So it's not just a critique of, in other words, like this: if I rebuke you, in most cases, if you are defensive, it's going to be defensive about the particular. But in him, any rebuke is also a reminder that you don't live a life of discipline, or you don't live a life of musar, and that's going to be that's so it's like a double gut punch, Okay. Then if you have scorned, you alone. If you become wise, you become wise for yourself. If you have scorned, then you alone will bear punishment or responsibility. So we had the point that the Leitzim is fundamentally alone, and he's also going to get consequences from rejecting Chachma. And it's funny because, oops, did I accidentally correct something to let? I think I did, yeah. But also the thing is like this is part of that same cluster of pesukim, right? So this is talking about rebuke. When Chacham rebukes the Leitz and the Leitz responds by mocking him and hating him, what does the Leitz feel like he is doing to the Chacham?
He's coming out on top.
Yeah, right. He feels like he's somehow getting ahead or coming out on top. But the funny thing is he is just harming himself, like he's shooting himself in the foot, So like it is this pasuk, I think, highlights the fact that Leitzanus is not in your best self-interest. When Chachma is in your self-interest. If you become wise for yourself. But if you scorn the wisdom that's being dished out to you, then you're just getting your own consequence. So you're not gaining anything by like rejecting the tochacha. Like there is a feeling when you're late, like stick it to the man, or like take that, like I'm not going to listen to you. You feel like you're harming the other person or something like that, but you're not. You're just harming yourself. Okay. Another one. Oh, this is how the late becomes a late, is that the way you relate, the way your parent relates to you, or the way you relate to your parent in terms of discipline can be what puts you on the trajectory to becoming a late, that we need to explore, because, truthfully, if this is talking about a younger son, it's really the fault of the parent.
Oh, yeah.
The son doesn't really have, the bechira to like intelligently process and make a decision about how the parent is rebuking them. So mostly it's just going to be a reaction. Only at a later stage does it become the person's fault. Yeah.
Does it necessarily have to do with a father-son relationship, or just someone who has authority over you? Like
I think it could be authority, but there are Mepharshim who learn this specifically about like child rearing, that the early stages of youth are what determines this. Yeah.
You're also adopted too.
Yeah, right. So it doesn't have to be biological father, right? It could be like a Mordechai Hadassah thing. Got to tie it back to Megillah. Mordechai. Yeah. Well, yeah, because that's what the pasuk says, right?
Oh, Hadassah's her name.
Yeah, Hadassah's her name. Yeah. Omenes Hadassah. He raised Hadassah. She was called. Yeah.
Right.
No, I'm glad you corrected me though, because it was a slip. But yeah, it was a correct slip though. Yeah.
I guess most people watching it on the YouTube probably won't understand.
Right. I was gonna say though that Rabbeinu Yonah uses the mashal for a na'ar, I think, and I think he's quoting other people. In fact, yeah, I feel like this is probably like a proverb in many countries, is that when a tree is young, then you can like through like using there's probably an official name for this, like scaffolds, or like you could shape it, you can mold it, right? And then it's malleable, right? And it can grow in line with the influence that has been like set up with. But once it becomes a mature tree, you can't just like put scaffolds on it and then hope for it to grow. And in fact, if you try to like bend it at that point, it could break.
Just like a baby's head.
Yes, it is.
No,
not what I would. Yeah.
No, it's because sometimes if the baby's head is a little out of shape, they have special helmets.
Right. I guess this is one of those rare examples where the mushal lines up with the nimshal in terms of physical reality. That just as you can mold a baby's skull, so that you can mold a baby's character.
Exactly.
Yeah,
there you go. That's a better.
Yeah. You just got to make sure that's one that you don't want to take literally, like if you're, phrenology is out. Okay. Is phrenology the thing that they used to do with the skull? Yeah, right. Okay. Then we had the Leitzim looked for chachma and it was not there, but knowledge comes easy for an understanding person. So I think the only thing I remember was what you said.
I had two.
You had two. Okay. One thing had to do with what he's looking for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you say it? You say, yeah.
I gotta. Okay, I think the first thing that I had said was that just because he may say that he's looking for wisdom, but if he has a preconception of like what wisdom is, then he's going to not find it because he's going to deny it. Versus, and then the other one was that like he wants wisdom, right? That's the requesting versus looking. But he kind of edits out anything that is, so he genuinely wants it, but he edits out anything that doesn't conform to his values or what he sees. Yeah. And so he wants it, but can't have it. Right. Okay, that's good. Did you have something else like similar to that, David?
I think Isaac had something like that.
Isaac? Yeah, what did you say?
That when the Leitzim searches for wisdom. Yeah. So part of the thing about, so by the nature of wisdom, it's going to be something that you didn't know and was like goes against like your previous thoughts, right? And so a Leitzim is not willing to accept that, so he's gonna say, oh, there's no chachma here, right? Okay, good. I think that fits in also, or maybe all of these fit in with the second half, which we didn't talk about yesterday. So just again, we're doing this. We're not doing in-depth learnings of the pesukim, but navon is someone who can derive new knowledge. Okay, chacham is a dependent learner. He can understand ideas, but only if they're given to him. And a navon is someone who could derive new knowledge. Yeah.
I don't know if I said yesterday, but I think that like what the Leitzim is doing is like they're looking for wisdom if it's like something that's like immediately like on the surface, like a good thing to them. Okay, that's good. Okay, right. So that I think is being contrasted with the navon, that because even when the Leitzim wants chachma, he doesn't want more than he wants. Okay, meaning he has a targeted, like a shopping list of chachma. Like, yeah, exactly. Like I have a particular problem. Okay, fine, I'll go look for chachma about that problem, but that's it. He's by default hostile towards other chachma because it can challenge the way he views reality or it can demand self-restraint. The navon is like always looking for chachma, and he has the ability to derive it. So even if he's like looking into a sugya for a particular, or like working on a particular problem in reality to get a one idea, he's going to keep on looking and he's going to welcome whatever chachma comes his way. Okay, and then the last one was the Leitzim will not love the one who rebukes him. He will not go to the wise. I think we only just commented yesterday that it seems like a very tame way of saying he will not love the one who rebukes him. There's this AP English, Leitodes. Hold on a second. Fine. I think this is it. Leitodes. I forgot how to say it. Ironic understatement in which an affirmative is expressed by the negative of its contrary. For example, you won't be sorry, meaning you'll be glad, right? So it's like, I don't know if this is actually it, but that's the word that came to my mind. He won't love him, No, is that the right one? I don't know, whatever. But the point is that we already said he hates him, right? And he disgraces him. So what's being gained by saying he won't love him? I have an idea, but again, we're just doing superficial shot. You can I know we've been trained to like sit on the ideas, but here we're doing Bekius. Yeah. One thing is, the person who's giving the rebuke. I mean, I think that when you give a rebuke, you have this thought that everything's going to go so smoothly, I'm going to tell this person something they're going to love. Like they're going to open ears, they're going to love it, and they're also going to love me for doing it. But like this person's not going to, even if it is a good piece of advice that you're giving.
Okay, so are you saying that it is for the speaking to the rebuker? Okay, yeah. That's definitely a possibility. Yeah, Isaac.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's also. I'm also gonna say it's speaking to the rebuker, but
yeah.
I think someone who's like a chacham, when they get rebuked, they're happy about the rebuke because then they can like correct it. You know, even if it's painful, they're happy to be getting feedback.
Yeah. Right.
And so it could so I think maybe it's the person is has this kind of like feeling that like, oh, you know, if I rebuke this guy, he'll be so like happy that to hear how he can improve.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. So I'm totally open to the idea that this is for the rebuker. Yeah.
I just thought that he does not like rebuke.
It's true.
So why what's your question?
My question is, why phrase it in this tame way of he won't love him? We already know he hates him and he hates the rebuke. So saying he won't love him seems like an understatement. Right.
It's just
like if you said, for example, Haman didn't love Mordecai. Well, of course not. He hated him, right? It's like, why state it?
Well, I mean, okay, so you could say that if you hate someone, there may be an opportunity sometime when you're at a certain period of life that you may come around and love the guy.
Right.
But it's just ever something that you will never.
So I was thinking along those lines, and this is not a full answer to my question. This is just what was prompted by it, which is that, you know, if you, let's say your friend rebukes you about something, okay, and you don't accept that particular rebuke, and let's say you even hate that rebuke, okay, it's not necessarily going to fundamentally change the baseline ahava that you have for your friend, you know. But what the Leitz does is he writes people off, you know. He writes off the one who rebukes him, and just what was it?
Kill us.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, not literal kill us, right? Like, right? Yeah. I mean, in other words, like he just completely, like that person is puzzled. That person is just invalidated. And then what happens is the entire class of chachamim, of people who are like that person, he's just going to be turned off to. You know, like there are people who have, let's say, like a bad experience with, you know, let's say like they go into a profession and they have a bad experience with their mentor. So they just, not only do they reject that mentor, they're like, I don't want mentors, you know, or people have a bad experience with a rabbi or a teacher, you know, they're turned off to the whole concept, you know. I think I think the way I was thinking this, it doesn't fully answer my question, but by putting the emphasis on the relationship to the person as opposed to the rebuke, then that's what triggered my idea. Okay, so that's the end of the review.
It happens all the time.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, like I've spoken to people who are anti-rabbis because of one rabbi.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Anti-religion because of one guy.
Right, and in that sense, by the way,
children and you happen to be a rabbi.
Right.
I had a conversation with someone.
Yeah, right. It's a human tendency, definitely. Yeah. Just a side point, which I mentioned in a Friday shiur that was not here, is there's a statement by Chazal about the benefits of reviewing. So we just spent 25 minutes reviewing, right? Okay, and I'd say that we got new nuances and insights. And the more I have, a change that has come over me from teaching in yeshiva is I feel the luxury to be able to review fully. Whereas in high school, there was a much stricter timeline of like, you have to like cover a certain amount of ground or whatever. So there's a statement in the Gemara that's, I don't know where, maybe it's in the Midrash or something that says that you should learn about reviewing from camel drivers. Okay, so if you want a camel driver to give you a ride for 10 miles, it'll cost you $10. But if you want the 11th mile, it'll cost you $20. Okay, in other words, the one additional mile will cost an additional 10. So same thing with review, that not with cost, but with value, that like when you set out to review, or most likely when people decide to not review, they think if I review, I'm just going to get the same stuff that I got before. But what actually happens is you get all the same stuff you got before, and then you double your value because you get, first of all, you see it from a different perspective, and then you gain on each of the points a new perspective that you didn't get from before. So that's why it's always worth it to review everything, you know, and I think this is a good example, so I had to point that out. Okay, Leitz take opesi yarim v'hochiach lenavon yavin das. This is the pasuk actually that I could have sworn that this is quoted in a midrash about megillos Esther. Okay, and I thought that there's a midrash that says that that Haman was the Leitz and then Achashverosh was the Pesi, but I can't find it. Okay, so either I'm like misremembering a midrash, or I'm just not using the search feature properly. So it says a Leitz take, you strike a Leitz, okay, and a Pesi, a naive simple. Shimon Ben Zakein last night came up with a good translation of Pesi. He says is an impressionable fool. Okay, I think that's that's better than what I said, a naive simpleton, because impressionable I think is just like more nuanced and more subtle. An impressionable fool will become cunning, okay, or clever. V'hochiach l'navon, and if you rebuke a navon, right? So navon is a person of understanding. Yavin das, he will understand knowledge. Okay, so this one is an interesting one because this is clearly not directed at the Leitz, but it is about the Leitz. Yeah.
Well, I just like have like a theory of
the
first part.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead. And that's the only part we're interested in.
Well, it says like so Pesi is just like he's like a bystander.
Yeah, he's watching what's going on. Yeah.
Okay, so it says he becomes clever, so he's like, oh, I shouldn't do that thing that just did. Yeah, okay, good. So the Pesi can learn from being stricken. The implication, though, is that the Leitz is not learning from that, right? So in other words, Mishlei talks about corporal punishment, about like physical punishment, which is that's like your last tool. Like you don't want to use that because it's engaging the person as an animal, like conditioning as opposed to as a human. So the Pesi, like if you punish a Leitz, the Pesi can learn from it because he's on that simple level. He's like, oh, I better not do this, otherwise I'll get hurt, But the Leitz is not going to learn from it. So even when he gets the consequence, he's not going to learn from it if it's imposed from outside. Yeah, Chaim?
Question about.
No, Isaiah, you go. I'm talking about something else.
Okay. Yeah, Isaiah?
Oh, are they the same person, the Leitz and the Pesi in this thing?
No, I think it's like Moshe was saying, it's like a bystander.
I got it.
Yeah, which is saying that I think this is addressed to the Punisher, which is that you might think if you've read Mishlei, you know that the Leitz is not really open to changing, right? So you might think, okay, there's no point in punishing him, but there is, not for his sake, but for the sake of the people who can gain from him. Yeah, Ariel?
In the first half, like the Pesi, when he becomes cunning / clever, is that a good thing?
So this is
like it's the opposite of the second half,
right? Hold on just a second here. So if you look on, we're not going to go into this in depth, obviously, but if you look at my Mishlei spectrum graphic, you'll notice when it opens that the cunning,
the one I found.
This is the one you found, yeah. That these are old definitions, by the way, so I don't know if I hold by them anymore. But the arum, the cunning, is on the positive side. The arum is halfway between the nar and the chacham. But then the arum is also the negative side, because arum is a quality of Rasha'im, or like the nachash in Gan Eden, that he's worse than the ksiel on the way to the Rasha. So cunning is one of these qualities that can be good or can be bad, depending on whether it's under the framework of chachma development or Rasha development.
Right, so my question really is on this pasuk, in the first half of the pasuk.
Yeah.
Is that the positive side?
This seems to be the positive side. And in fact, the reason why I know it's the positive side is because when Mishlei states its mission objectives, it says that the mission is, what are you trying to give to the Pesi? Laseis lepesaim arma, to give the Pesi cunning. So you want him to get cunning, because cunning, even though it can go bad, cunning is, so my working definition of cunning, just to plug it in here, cunning means knowledge of the psyche, knowledge of how the emotions can influence decisions. So that's why you can use it for good or for bad, is if you are aware of how your own emotions influence your perception of reality, then you can rise above them. But if you are aware of how other people's emotions can distort their reality, then you can manipulate them and then be like Machiavellian and go like a Russia. Yeah, Chaim and Yossi?
Yeah, so I was thinking that cunning was a bad thing as well, but I guess if it's not, then I guess one question before an idea. Is he in the second part of the pasuk? Is that is that the navon or is that the pesi as well? Because if it's the pesi, then there's this idea that we've talked about before. But
yeah, so yavin is the navon. Yeah, pesi is.
So I was originally going to say, thinking that cunning was a bad thing, that this would be another reason to not rebuke. But if anything, now I'll just flip it and say that it seems like a reason to rebuke a Leitz if he's in front of a pesi, seems. Because you would think that there's never a time to do it, but he's kind of teaching you that if there's a pesi around who can be influenced by your rebuke,
So that's a good question about how does the pesi respond to witnessing someone else rebuking, and I could see it going both ways. Because on the one hand, pesi would be able to understand, is not resistant to rebuke, and if you're not rebuking him, then there's not even going to be any defenses that are awakened. However, the pesi might be not abstract enough to be able to apply it to himself. Like you'll see, like people, like there are people who are, their ears are open to all advice, even if it doesn't apply to their situation, and they'll absorb it no matter what. Then there are people who will only absorb advice if it pertains directly to them. If they're hearing a navon get rebuked, they might not even like pay attention to it. You know, it's a good question. Like that'd be a good question to investigate if we like learn the pasuk in depth.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a question of that, how you would construct rebuke to the Leitz for the pesi.
Right. Yeah. Correct. And I think the only reason that the pasuk is not saying rebuke to the Leitz is because it's talking to someone who's read Mishlei and knows that rebuking the Leitz is not going to get you anywhere. And
What does striking mean exactly?
Physically.
You like beat the guy?
I mean, it could be okay. Sorry. When I say physically, it could be either physically beating him or like imposing some sort of tangible punishment on him. Like it could be like a monetary fine or like getting arrested. You know.
So it's interesting because it's not the same as, because I remember we said a while ago about a Leitz, like if a Leitz, like there is an opportunity for him to change if something occurs to him, like. So we said that a Leitz. So the difference. So we said that the Leitz can only learn. The only opportunity for a Leitz to change, or the only hope, is if he gets a consequence that he realizes is the result of his own action. But if it's imposed from outside, then it awakens all of his anti-authority bias, and then he closes off. It's got to come from him. Yeah. Okay. So like for example, like if he. You know, we said a Leitz is someone who like is addicted to wine, right? So let's say he drinks and then he drunk tweets something really aggressive and then he gets canceled. No, that's not going to work because that's coming from outside. Let's say he gets into a car accident. You know, he might learn not to drive drunk. You know, but if someone tells him not to drive drunk, or if or if he gets a ticket for driving drunk. Right. You know, that's being imposed from outside, and that he's going to turn off to that. I wonder if you could construct a scenario where he makes it seem like it's coming from within.
So that's what we had a similar move in Monday Night Mishlei when we were talking about how the tzaddik helps the avil. The avil is the other Mishlei fool, where the tzaddik will construct it so the avil. One of the quality we were saying there, the avil is someone who is turned off to the lifestyle of caring about justice. Right. So the tzaddik will arrange it. And we said that the avil won't even take free benefits that the tzaddik is dishing out. Let's say like the tzaddik gives free food, the avil will not partake of it because he doesn't want to like associate with the tzaddik. Right. So the tzaddik will find ways to get help to the avil that are untraceable, you know? So that's what you're wondering is, can you construct this something like that? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm sure there is. Yeah, I'm sure enough of them could come up with it. Okay. Yeah, maybe. Okay, the next one is very similar. Nachonu Leitzim shvatim. So shvatim, I would translate here as sentences. Okay, like sentences, not like in English, but like punishment. You know, sentences. Sentences are fit for Leitzim, umahalumus lagiv ksilim, and physical blows to the back of fools. So this is another one where this does seem to be differentiating, right? Because I was saying when Arya was asking, what does it mean by striking? I said either physical blows or some sort of punishment. This, I think, corroborates that sentencing can work for the Leitzim, but only physical blows can work for a ksil. And remember, ksil is a veteran pleasure seeker, someone who's like addicted to pleasure. And so a fool only can get physical consequences. He's not even going to get sentencing. That's plain shot, I think. Okay, yeah.
Just to note,
Before you note, I'm going to start asking Isaac to remember what we said last year about this. Yeah, go ahead.
Where the pesukim are that you had Yutet Chav Hey and Yutet Chav Tet, and the next pasuk is.
Oh, thank you.
Those two are together.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I bet if we look there, then we'll find a common theme. Yeah, see, so we have here rebuking the late, or sorry, punishing the lates, parenting discipline. This one I'm not sure if it's in, and then our pasuk of the sentencing, and then lates, and then it go. Yeah, fine. Yeah, this is a good observation. Okay, yeah. So late hayayin home shechar. So there were a lot of ways to translate late hayayin. Yeah,
this is the previous one.
Yeah.
I think we said something about how it's the nechonu was this is like not just like the natural code.
Oh, we also did this one last year. You're right.
Yeah. We're in the section of what we've already.
You're right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was something about how when like the natural thing that a lates gets is blows.
Right.
And like similar for concealment. Like it's not like it's like already
meaning like it is in line with their nature when we say natural, or do you mean like
yeah. Oh, I think we maybe said that people were maybe like lining up to give them like blows. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay, so this one was hard to translate. Lates hayayin home shechar. So I remember like one way to say it is a lates cries out for wine and strong drink. Oh yeah, cries out is home, right? Cries out for wine and hard alcohol. I think that's how we said shechar is alcohol. And all who err in it will not become wise. So this is the first time we see this idea that the lates has a special relationship with alcohol. And I'll say what I remember, and then you fill it in if you can, Isaac. Or actually, no. Anyone have a?
Did we do this year?
Well, we did it in. No, we did it last year.
Last semester.
Did we? Oh, okay, fine. So maybe we did.
I feel like we mentioned it like a couple weeks ago, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, I thought we did it last year, but I don't know.
I remember the idea that was said over there was that like the lates is going to use like the substances to escape from a reality that's from reality which is trying to destroy his reality.
Okay, right. So that fits in really well with the way we've been developing it now. Is that okay? I think we differentiated between. Like obviously the Torah does not hold that alcohol is bad, and yain yismach levav enosh, wine has the ability to like enhance pleasures, but the key differentiation is: are you using it for an escape, or are you like if you're using it for an escape or for a way for an excuse to indulge in your base natures? So then that's when it becomes destructive. And so the lates is using it for both. He's using it to escape reality, the aspects of reality he doesn't want to face, and the aspects of the internal reality he doesn't want to face. And I think this is what we said last year, is that he's using it because we know that when people are drunk, they say things that are inappropriate, but there's also a certain social like license to do so. Like, oh, I was just drunk, but he wants to be put into that state so he could like fully indulge in it and like without consequences, or so he thinks.
I think also just with what we're saying with the Chaval Chavdalet, where he's someone who he doesn't think about whether or not this is a good idea to get into that sort of state. Like that's like effectively like the same way just eating.
Right.
It's like effectively just having that alcohol so he can get himself to that.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's good. Is just and that's what that I think one of the person pointed out. That's why, I mean, this is true today also. Okay, that there are it's true that there are refined hard alcohol like drinkers like whiskey and scotch, but a lot of people do it just because it's more efficient to get into that state. Like, they're not doing it for the taste; they're doing it for the state. Yeah,
it's interesting. According to that idea, it makes it sound like the lates does recognize at some level that what he's doing normally is not a good thing.
Right, and that was what we said about the the development of the Leitz, that the whole thing comes from the fact that deep down, he recognizes that there's something I need to drown out. Pesi doesn't recognize that he's even on the wrong derech, but the Leitz does realize that. And when we said, and we haven't seen this yet in the pesukim, that is his hope, that deep down part of him recognizes that this is, that I'm suppressing this part of myself that knows that it's doing wrong.
Pesi doesn't recognize?
Well, Pesi just doesn't have enough knowledge to know that reality operates that way, that reality has objective consequences that you can use your mind to figure out.
So doesn't that make, to some extent, the Leitz on a bit of a higher level than the Pesi, in that he recognizes that there's some sort of
In fact, a lot of the people on the Rishaim spectrum, the further along you go, then the more potentially on the higher level you are. And you see this in Tanakh, because the worst people in Tanakh, when they did tshuva, it's considered the greatest tshuva, like Menashe, who was one of those evil kings. But in order to become that evil, you have to have very good bechira, where you are aware of the two choices and you are rejecting the good life. So when you snap back, then you can become much better. Or another way to put it is, that's why Chazal say that when you do tshuva, your avonos become zechuyos. Your demerits become merits, because you're actually relating to them in a different way. The Pesi doesn't even have demerits that he can transform. Yeah.
But it's funny, we don't consider the Pesi worse than the Leitz.
Yeah, the other reason why we don't consider one is because in terms of decision making, it's not bad. He's just very impressionable. He's almost passive in terms of being influenced by others. The other reason is Pesi is not going to be very destructive or damaging to other people, whereas the Leitz is, you got to keep people away from him. He's going to go out and target people,
Right.
Okay, ba'anash Leitz yechkam Pesi uvahaskil l'chacham yikach das. This is very similar to the one above. When the Leitz is punished, the Pesi becomes wise, and when the wise man is given comprehension, he will seize knowledge. Okay, so this actually, I think, is what this is pointing out just a different benefit. This is so the last one said he'll become cunning, right? So cunning, according to our working definition, means that he'll recognize the distorting power of the emotions. So see that this Leitz gave into this his personality, and his personality caused him to completely misevaluate the situation, and that's why he got punished. Here, he'll get chachma, meaning he'll just get knowledge of the consequences themselves. See the difference? I can watch a fool make a mistake and see the consequences of the effect of the mistake, and then the cause of the mistake. So the Pesi can get both from witnessing the Leitz get punished. They'll see, this is what happens to you when you are giving into this aggressive part of yourself. And then this is also, the aggressive part of yourself is what causes you to misevaluate the situation, to make this bad decision. Yeah, Isaiah?
Do you think this punishment is specifically hitting, or you think it could be any kind of punishment?
So I think this one, because it doesn't say hitting, then it could be any type of punishment. Yeah, that's a good question. I was not thinking about that. Okay, then we have our pasuk. Okay, then we have Garish Leitz V'Yetze Madon. Oh, this is a good one. You know what? Actually, this might be a good stop. Well, I'll translate it and then we'll stop and then come back to this tomorrow. Blineder. So Garish Leitz V'Yetze Madon. Exile, or not exile. Drive away a Leitz, and strife or quarreling will go away. V'yishbos din v'kalon. And I think din is contentiousness here. That's my intuition. And contentiousness and shame will cease. Okay, let's think about that for tomorrow. Okay, good.
How would you feel about when you're finished with this, sending us a doc?
Sure. Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, I didn't write down any of the ideas, but it's good to have on hand in case you want to review. Yeah. Okay, let's stop here for today, and we never continue tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.